The Democrats are really in trouble on the illegal immigrant issue. They're underwater in the polls. Trump is incredibly effective in securing the border. Now the deportations are beginning, and they've tried to come up with a new message to try to tell you that they're right about this. And apparently the message is, hey, everybody, we need the illegal immigrants to stay here because they're doing all this work. There's a winning message for you. And by the way, it's being delivered by your favorite Latino and Latina journalists, Jim Acosta and Ana Navarro. And we'll get to Acosta in a second. But here's mi abuela, Ana, sitting on the CNN panel, trying to explain why we need to keep all this exploited third world slave labor here in America.
And look, what's going to happen here is that we're going to find that milk gets a lot higher, because I don't know if any of you have ever been in a dairy farm. It is god-awful work. We're going to see that groceries and vegetables are higher. We're going to see an effect in our economy, because whether people like it or not, whether Americans acknowledge it or not, undocumented immigrants are an integral part of our society and our economy. And we're going to have to get used to seeing the videos of U.S. citizens detained, of U.S. citizen children being ripped from the arms of their mothers and while they wail, of, you know, dads and moms and business owners. Yeah, we're going to have to get used. And look,
I do love the fact that they're finally coming clean and saying this all out loud. These illegal immigrants are working here every day illegally. They continue to break the law. Can I just point that out for you? Everybody says, oh, it's not really a crime to cross the border. Of course, it's a crime to cross the border. You can try to decriminalize it. It's still an infraction of the law. You can not enforce it if you want, but it's still an infraction of the law. It is a crime. Whether you decide it's a civil crime or not is really up to how you, the people in charge of the executive branch of government, decide to enforce the law. But don't blow smoke up my butt and tell me that it's not a crime. Of course it is. But then that's what they say. Okay, you know, sure, it's just that one crime, but they're coming here for a better life. Oh, really? They're coming here for a better life? You mean economically they're coming here for work and money? Because there's a second crime, because when they were apprehended, they claimed amnesty. Or excuse me, they claimed for asylum. They claimed asylum. It's another word that starts with A. So they crossed the border illegally, broke the law. They get apprehended and they claim asylum status to stay in the country temporarily until they get their hearing. But of course, temporarily means 8 years. But if they were really coming here for a job and for money, that's not legitimate grounds for asylum. So that's the second law that was broken, because they lied to a federal law enforcement official, Border Patrol or ICE. Okay, that's number two. And then let's get to number three. They're working at the dairy farm, Anna. Guess what? How'd they get that job? They have to fill out an I-9. What kind of documentation did they provide? Because we keep hearing they're not illegal. They're just undocumented. So explain to me how someone who's undocumented provides documents to get a job at a dairy farm. And the answer is identity theft. They bought a social security number. They bought a passport. They bought a birth certificate. So there's another crime that they've committed. Every single day they work in this country with false documentation, they're committing a crime. So stop with that. And all the gaslighting about how, they're just, they're not lawbreakers. They're just here living peacefully. They don't commit any more crimes. Of course they do. But I love at least that they're not even trying anymore. I love that they're actually honest and open about it. It's not gardeners and it's not babysitters and it's not, no. Oh, they're working at dairy farms. They're working at hospitals. They're working everywhere. Your whole society is going to fall apart if they leave. Oh, thank you for admitting that they've undermined our economy and salaries and wages and work opportunities forever. And now this whole, we're not going to have any milk on the shelves because nobody's working at the dairy farms. Can someone explain to me, maybe Ana, Abuela, you can explain this to me. How in the hell did we have milk on the shelves before everyone came flooding across our border illegally? How did it happen? Was it just magic? Was it, I don't know, were there elves working at these dairy farms? Oh, the construction industry is going to get killed by this if you get rid of all the. How did we build anything in this country before we opened our borders? How did it happen? Or they're lying to you. Maybe they're lying. Anyway, anybody here think that Anna Navarro has ever milked a cow in her whole damn life? I would love to see her milk a cow. Oh, and if the argument is, oh, sure, you'll get your milk, the milk will come, buildings will be built, hotel rooms will be cleaned, tables at restaurants will be bussed, produce will be picked, but it's going to cost a lot more because we're going to have to pay higher wages. If that's the argument, then you're admitting that you have been building your economy on exploited slave labor that you didn't have to pay benefits for. These are the people who say they're for the working man. These are the people who say they're for the blue-collar workers, and yet now they are admitting that they were allowing blue-collar workers from third world nations to undermine wages and benefits in this country for the benefit of big agriculture, big hospitality, big leisure, so those people could get that much richer by utilizing cheap labor. Either way, it's a hell of an argument they've got, isn't it? No wonder they're rioting in the streets. They want to distract you. Now, you may be saying to yourself, oh, that's just Abuela Navarro. She's just a blowhard commentator. She's not somebody in any political power. Well, we've been showing you clips from the governor of California and the mayor of Los Angeles who are saying basically the same thing. And they're not outliers here. This guy right here, his name is Giovanni Chavez. He's the president of the California Young Democrats. Here was his statement on social media about the riots.
I'm here in Santa Ana in solidarity with our immigrant communities. On this day without an immigrant, let us remember that immigrants do some of the hardest jobs, some of the jobs other folks would not be willing to take. My parents are immigrants. My dad installed carpet for a living. My mother was a caregiver. And they did some of the hardest jobs without benefits, with very low pay. And immigrants make sure they keep America running strong. Now let us support our immigrants and combat the Trump administration.
Now, a couple things here, because you saw a lot of Mexican flags in the background when he said he was in Santa Ana. What he meant was Santa Ana, which is in Orange County, California city. It's right near Newport Beach and Costa Mesa. It's the county seat actually in Orange County, and it's Santa Ana, not Santa Ana. Okay, just wanted to make sure everyone had the correct pronunciation, because it's hard to figure that out since you see so many Mexican flags in the background. He could have been in some town in Mexico called Santa Ana, but no, he's in California and it's Santa Ana. That's number one. Number two, look at what he's admitting. These again. Illegal immigrants, he says immigrants, but we know what he's talking about. Illegal immigrants do the jobs that no one else wants to do. Again, how did anything get done in this country before we flooded the border with tens of millions of illegal immigrants? But secondly, the most important tell, as he brings his own parents up here, is that they're doing it all for low wages and no benefits.
Jobs without benefits, with very low pay.
There you go. And he wants to keep that going. He wants the status quo to continue. Color me crazy, but if this is the spokesperson for young Democrats in California, and the rallying cry is, hey, everybody, we got to keep this cheap labor here so they can do really jobs for low wages and no benefits. I mean, listen, you be you, dude. If you want that to be the political message, personally, I think it might be more attractive to say this is crap. Why are we letting people work for pennies on the dollar and for no benefits? And by the way, the no benefits thing, guess what they end up getting? They do end up getting benefits. Like, how can you have a full-time job and not have any health care? Oh, they get health care. You're paying for it with your tax dollars, which again is a break to big ag and all of these industries that hire these low-wage workers, and they don't have to pay them benefits because of protection from people like this. And then they end up saying, oh, look at all these poor people who are working without health benefits. So we have to create a new government program, and it'll be funded by your tax dollars. So if you live in a state that doesn't have all this ubiquitous cheap labor coming from south of the border, your federal tax dollars are going through Medicaid to pay for California's subsidy. Happy about that? But that's exactly what's happening here. And that's the status quo that they want to keep going. And who benefits from it? They do. They do. But listen, at least they're saying it out in the open. They're not the only ones either. Another child of immigrants, Jim Acosta. His name isn't Jim, by the way. He just anglified his name for TV because he's racist. Jim Acosta yesterday at the Center for American Progress, delivering a very progressive message. As you listen to this, I just want you to remember that this man is only 4 months from being an unbiased, nonpartisan journalist in good standing with CNN. Just 4 months ago, they put him on television every single day to deliver the news to you. And you were meant to believe that he didn't have any kind of political opinion. And if he did, he just set it aside, and it didn't affect the way he did his job because he's a professional journalist. And don't you know, they're unbiased. They're objective. They just call balls and strikes, man. They are objective journalists. That's what Jim Acosta was for CNN just 4 months ago. And now listen to him.
The far right in this country has kind of figured out a way to infiltrate, the heartland and to, basically pull, mom and pop from the farm to their point of view. And as it turns out, a lot of those folks vote in these elections. And a lot of those folks have been completely led astray. I hate to say it, but they've just been completely led astray. And we've all just let this happen on our watch with essentially a business model for delivering the news in this country that just does not work anymore.
Well, he was fine cashing those checks in that business model that doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore because they don't hire him. But he's right about the news and the way it's delivered right now. But it's kind of funny if you think about it. His friends and his political ideology, or people who embrace his political ideology, have a monopoly on the news business pretty much. I mean, a monopoly, I think, is defined by if you own basically 85 or 90% of market share. And that's about right. If you look at all of the newspapers and all of the television stations and all of the broadcast networks and all of the cable news networks, sure, there's a couple of outliers. But in terms of the vast number of media outlets, especially when you add pop culture into media, television shows, streaming television shows, I'm talking about fictionalized shows, and the late night comedy shows, it's a monopoly. It's a monopoly. And yet, even with that monopoly on news and information and entertainment and infotainment in this country, he is still sitting up there lamenting at the fact that you stupid redneck yokels on your farms believe anything other than what the enlightened intelligentsia personified by Jim Acosta tell you to believe. That you have your own opinion that in some way diverges from those in their lofty thrones in Washington, D.C. and Manhattan, who are much smarter than you, don't you know? Certainly more enlightened than you. And the fact that you rednecks just can't get it, that you dare to vote for this person and this party that we've been trying to warn you about for decades. I don't think, I mean, you talk about the media elite. And here's a guy who's lost his job, and yet, boy, he still has retained his elite status. I mean, he's a guest at Center for American Progress in Washington, D.C., don't you know? And listen to the disdain, the venomous hate that he has as he looks down his elitist East Coast nose at you morons in the middle of the country. Listen to him again.
The far right in this country has kind of figured out a way to infiltrate, the heartland and to, basically pull, mom and pop from the farm to their point of view. And as it turns out, a lot of those folks vote in these elections. And a lot of those folks have been completely led astray.
Amazing. See, the only way you could possibly disagree with him politically is if you've been led astray and your community has been infiltrated and that you're just stupid. And I would say, okay, Jim, great point there. Great point about how people in the heartland have been led astray and they're voting for this other political party instead of you, the one that you're aligned with. Could I just ask you a quick follow-up question on that? Because the answer that you provide to this question may really just sort of flip the switch for all of those stupid redneck yokels who don't know what they're doing. So let me ask you something on behalf of your political party and your political ideology. Can a man get pregnant? Go ahead. Answer that question, Jim. Give me an answer to that question. Can a man get pregnant? Because your answer will very much inform mom and pop in the heartland. Jim wasn't done. He appeared on a Substack podcast. Boy, what a Mount Rushmore of journalistic giants this is. You got Jennifer Rubin, excised from the Washington Post because even she was too big a lunatic for that newspaper. You got April Ryan. Is she still writing at that thing? What is it? The Griot? Is that it? And Jim Acosta. April and Jim spent the entire first Trump term screaming at whoever the press secretary was and acting like complete and total despicable buffoons. Meanwhile, Jennifer Rubin, she was the conservative columnist at the Washington Post who spent every column inch screeding about Donald Trump. And now the three of them are doing their live stream for No King's Day. And Jim just let loose. Again, I remind you, just 4 months ago, CNN continued to prop him up, put him behind the anchor desk as an unbiased, objective newsman.
I got a question, though. Where are the ICE raids at the Trump properties?
Yes.
Can somebody call ICE on the Trump golf course in Virginia?
Yes,
You're telling me there's nobody in there that is undocumented or has some kind of squirreliness going on with their paperwork? Give me a break. Hey, how many immigrants has he married? He's got one buried at his golf course in New Jersey. Isn't she buried by the first hole or the second tee or something like that?
The first hole, yeah, it's the first hole.
Immigrants always doing the jobs that Americans don't want to do.
Stay classy, Jimbo. Stay classy. Listen, he's in the Substack business now. He's got to say stuff to get those clicks. I get it, Do what you got to do there, dude. Trump's married immigrants, one of them buried at his golf course, and those women are doing jobs that Americans don't want to do. That would be Jim Acosta, ladies and gentlemen. Jim Acosta. This is all they've got. This entire segment here that we've wandered through is the current messaging that the left and the Democrats have on immigration. After yesterday's show, and if you missed it, find the segment about the success at the border. How Trump, like that, in less than 5 months, has been able to shut down the border and actually show immediate results on his immigration policies. And now we've had 1 million illegal immigrants self-deport. And we're still getting the numbers on the actual people who are being apprehended and deported on a daily basis in this country. Couldn't possibly do it. It's impossible. What are you thinking? And now the only thing they've got is to tell you that the economy is going to fall apart because their party has empowered these illegal immigrants to work for no wages and no benefits. And then you've got Jim Acosta saying that if you support Donald Trump, you're a stupid, brainwashed yokel. And now he's calling for deportations at the Trump golf courses and perhaps even Trump's wife. And they've got one more message for you, by the way. You know how they keep saying, how are we going to get young men back to vote for us? Young white voters, young white men, they won't vote for us anymore. Well, they've got another great idea. Here's the latest ad here showing a young white man and his rather brown-skinned girlfriend. I think you can see what's coming here.
I had a really good time today.
Yeah, me too. I really like.
What are you doing?
She's coming with us.
What are you talking about? Who are you?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're rounding up illegals.
She was born here. She's a citizen.
I don't care. She looks like one of them. But don't worry. When she's in prison in El Salvador, she'll have lots of company.
I love that they all have the word progress, because that's progress. There's the message now from the Democrats. They're not desperate at all, guys. They're completely sane and rational, and they're delivering coherent, logical political messages to communicate to you why you should vote for them. They're telling you what they're for. They're not unhinged lunatics screaming about what they're against. No, that's progress, don't you know? Here's the message. Donald Trump is going to deport your hot brown-skinned girlfriend. Vote Democrat. By the way, young white women looking to get hooked up and married, probably fine with this policy. You can't tell me, though, that that's a Republican congressman. Come on. Hold on. See this moment right here? That's got Biden written all over it. Come on. Look at, he's even doing the sniff, the hair sniff. That's no Republican. That's a Democrat. That's Biden. They got nothing. They're hysterical. They're unhinged. They're out of control. And they continue to reveal exactly who they are. Have you seen the latest Mission Impossible movie? Or any of the Mission Impossible movies, for that matter? Here's every single Democrat in the media or in elected office right now on the immigration issue. They're ripping off the mask, and they're revealing exactly who they are. And it ain't pretty. And it's certainly not winning.